Grade 11 Mathematics Paper 1, Question 1, Solving Equations. Now, in general, this is what we may expect in a grade 11 Mathematics Paper 1, Question number 1. Now, we are solving for x, solve for x. So, the first question, most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, especially if it's 2 marks or 3 marks like this, it means we can solve that one by factorization. So this equation in factorized form is x plus 6 factor of x minus 3 is equal to 0. Then we can read our answers from the brackets. X is equal to negative 6 or x is equal to positive 3. Then our question is answered. So it's a very straightforward calculation. If you are not able to factorize, however, you are allowed to use any method of your choice. You can solve by completing the square, or you can solve by using the quadratic formula. It is still fine. Number 2, the word hence. If a question says to you, hence, normally they say hence or otherwise. Solve the following. It means the equation that you are solving now is related to the previous calculation that you have done. Normally, you'll be using the answers or some of the calculation that you have done previously to solve the new equation. So you have to study the equation that you are solving and discover how it is related to the previous one that you have done. So in this case, you can see that if we transpose this x to the left and the negative 2 to the left, the x will become a positive x. So the 2x plus the x that comes from the right hand side, they will become one number there, which is 3x. Then this 2 and this negative 20 will give us minus 18. This is less than 0. Now, if you look at this inequality now, you can see that it is the same that we have solved in 1.1 as an equation. So in an inequality, you need the key values of the inequality. Because we have already solved this expression as an equation in number 1.1.1, it therefore means we already have the key values that are needed to solve this inequality. X is equal to negative 6 or x is equal to 3. Now, all we need to do now is to investigate these numbers and determine what the solutions of the inequality are going to be. Our key values are negative 6 and 3. Now, you look at the inequality in standard form. Now, if you look at the inequality in standard form, this part here, this is less than 0. So, less than 0 in maths, it means that value is negative. If you have less than 0 bank balance, it means you have got a negative number. You are owing the bank. So, in this case, we have a negative value. It basically means the values of x are those numbers that can give us a negative answer if we substitute them into this expression. Now, if you do this method of using a graph, you must look at this coefficient of x squared. If it's positive from functions, if that is positive, it means your graph must look like that. Then my entire inequality is negative. It means the answers are at the bottom part or between 6 and 3. That is where that part is the part of the graph which is negative. So the values of x, we now say minus 6 is less than x and x is less than positive 3. Or if you want to write it in interval form, then we can say x is an element of negative 6 up to a positive 3. Then my inequality is solved. Number 1, that's the answer to number 1.1.2. Then number 1.2, this is a quadratic equation. Important when you are solving an equation, we have to simplify the equation to standard form. So that means we must remove the brackets. So remove the brackets and express the equation in standard form. Now this 2 and this x, they are multiplying the bracket in the middle. So I can choose to write the 2 and the x together then I multiply by x plus 1. The 7 must move to the left so that the equation can equate to 0. Now you remove the brackets by the FOIL method. 2x times x, that will give me 2x squared, and then 2x times 1 is equal to 2x minus 7. This is equal to 0. I have expressed my equation in standard form. After expressing in standard form, I can now decide on whether I must solve it by quadratic formula or by completing the square, or is it possible to factorize it. Then you can go ahead and solve the equation. In this case, this is not possible to factorize. Therefore, we're going to apply the quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula states that x is equal to minus b plus or minus b squared, the square root of b squared minus 4ac. So I need to know the value of a, I need to know the value of b, and I need to know the value of c. Then I can do substitution. X is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. So this is direct substitution and then use of a calculator. We won't expect this to go wrong at all. So I can therefore say my answer will be x is equal to minus b. B is a 2, so that would be minus 2 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 2 squared, minus 4a. A is 2, c is negative 7. Then this is all over 2a. Very much important. When you put in the calculator, you need to make sure that the division line is covering minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. You must cover the entire expression on top. Division is the last thing that you do. And this is calculator work, so definitely if you put this in the calculator, you should get the right answers. So in this case, using a calculator, x is equal to 1,44, and the other value will be, or x is equal to minus 2,44. So I've solved the equation using the quadratic formula. So in terms of marks, generally you need to express in standard form. Then you need to do the correct substitution into the formula. And when you round off your numbers, you must make sure you round off your answers correctly to 2 decimal places or whatever specifications are given by that question. Then you are done answering this particular question. Question number 1.3. Now in this case we have an equation that has got a square root. Once again, a very straightforward kind of equation. We don't expect people to get this wrong at any cost if you do your studying properly. If an equation has got a square root, you make the square root term the subject, or you isolate the square root. You move every term in that equation to one side so that you leave the square root only on one side of the equation. After that, you square both sides. The squaring is done to get rid of the square root. And please take note, when you are squaring, you don't square individual terms. No, you square the left-hand side and then you square the right-hand side. This exponent too, some learners, they do this and then they end up getting x squared minus 1 squared. That is a very common mistake that appears in examinations. I'm not so sure why. Please, this is wrong. You cannot do that. The square means you must repeat the bracket x minus 1, factor of x minus 1. Then from there, we use the FOIL method to simplify it. So our equation will proceed as follows. This is 2x plus 1 on the left, and on the right hand side we have x minus 1, which is multiplied by x minus 1. Then after squaring, you simplify your equation to standard form. So here I use the FOIL method. This is minus 2x plus 1. You put everything on one side and leave 0 on the other side. So this is how my equation looks like. Now I have two terms here. If you have two terms, it means the equation is even simpler because you can use factorization to solve it. So x is equal to 0 or x is equal to 4. These are the solutions. Then important, if an equation has a square root, you must check your answer. The two solutions that we have for x, we substitute them into the equation to see if they can give us the same number on the left and on the right. If you put 0 in place of x, you are going to get the square root of 2 times 0 plus 1. That will give you the square root of 1 plus 1. The left side will give me 2. You don't have to write it down, but you can do it on the calculator and check. So the square root of 2 times 0 plus 1 and then plus 1 is equal to 0. Now if you simplify this, I'm substituting x with 0. The left side is going to give me 1 plus 1, which is equal to 2. Then I will get 2 is equal to 0. This does not make sense because 2 cannot equal to 0. You come back to these solutions. It means the value of x is not equal to 0. Therefore, you cross this equal sign to show that x is not equal to 0. Then you test the next answer and work it out. In this case, if you put 4 in place of x, you are going to get 2 times 4, which is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. The square root of 9 is equal to 3. 3 plus 1 is 4. Then on the right hand side, we have 4 also. So the mark allocation here, it follows that order in general. Number 1, when you are given the equation, you must make sure that you isolate the square root. This is the first thing to do. You isolate the square root. Then after isolating the square root, you square both sides. You must square both sides, and remember, you don't square individual terms. You square the left side and you square the right side. Then use the FOIL method to simplify. Then after that, you must express your equation to standard form. Express the equation in standard form. Then after expressing to standard form, you solve the equation. After solving the equation, you test your answers. That is how we solve an equation that has got brackets. We need to know how to do that. It's a very common question in paper 1 grade 11. Number 1.4. I want to solve this equation. This instruction says solve the equation x squared plus 10x minus 2 using the completing the square, the completion of the square. Solve by completing the square. This one is not a very common question, but completing the square itself, we need to understand it both is applicable in functions and other sections of algebra. So how do I solve an equation using the method of completing the square? So one of the methods is we must leave the first two terms on one side. So you move these two to the right hand side. That will give you x squared plus 10x is equal to 2. That is the first thing to do. Then secondly, you divide the middle, the value of b. You divide the coefficient of x by 2 and square the answer. So if I say 10 over 2, I get 5. Then if you square the 5, you get 25. That squared answer, you add it to both sides of this equation. So this is going to be 25. So I add 25 on both sides of the equation. I'll say this one again. You divide the coefficient of x. So I divide 10x, 10 divided by 2. The answer that I get, I squared. So 10 over 2 is equal to 5. Then if you square the 5, you get 25. The answer that you get after squaring, you add that answer to both sides of the equation. The moment you do that, the left-hand side of your equation becomes a square that you can factorize into two brackets. So this is the same as x plus 5, factor of x plus 5. And then on the right-hand side, we're simply adding 25 plus 2 to get 27. We know that x plus 5 factor of x plus 5 means x plus 5 and then squared. This is equal to 27. Then from there, to now remove these brackets, we square root both sides. Remember, to remove a square root, you square both sides. To remove a square, you square root both sides. So if you take the square root of the left and the square root of the right, then the square and the square root will help us there to get x plus 5 is equal to the square root of 27. Now, the square root of a number is a positive or a negative. Therefore, this is equal to the square root of 27. Then to complete our answer, we transpose the 5 to the right-hand side. It will become a negative 5. So this is negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 27. Then our two solutions for this equation, they come from separating the plus and minus. The first solution is 5 plus the square root of 27, and the second solution is minus 5 minus the square root of 27. Then from there, you get your calculator and work out the square root of 27 to complete this answer. So using a calculator, the value of x in the first one, x is equal to 0.20. This is rounded off to 2 decimal places, and the other one is minus 10.20, rounded off to 2 decimal places. We have solved this equation using the method of completing the square. That is another alternative method to the quadratic formula. If you so wish to learn it, it's a straightforward method. If you follow what you've done here, then you should get your answers correct. That is the answer to question number 1.4. Question number 1.5 and 1.6. Number 1.5, we are dealing with exponents in this question. Therefore, we may need to remember the laws of exponents. A multiplied by a to the power x plus 5 multiplied by a is equal to 1. So basically, we know that when multiplying the same values or the same basis, we can add the exponents. So the exponents we have here are x plus 5, and 1. So this will be x plus x, that gives us 2x. Then 5 plus 1, it will give us 6. So a times a times a becomes a to the power 2x plus 6. Then on the right hand side, when the bases are the same, the exponents are also the same. So that means we need to change this one and express it in terms of a as an exponent. So any number to the power 0 is equal to 1. Therefore, 1 is the same as a to the power 0. When the bases are the same, we can make a conclusion that the exponents are also the same, which therefore means 2x plus 6 is equal to 0. Then it's a simple equation that we can solve. 2x is equal to minus 6, dividing both sides by 2 gives us x is equal to negative 3. That is my answer for number 1.5. Number 1.6, we have got exponents again. So we should remember, if the bases are the same, the exponents are also the same. I have got 3 to the power of 2x is equal to 3 to the power of y minus 1. So in this case, because these bases are the same, it follows that the exponents are also the same. So 2x is equal to y minus 1. Number 1.6, I'm dealing with simultaneous equations. So simultaneous equations I can solve by substitution, or I can solve by elimination method, depending on what type of equations I have. So in this case, I can use either of the two. I'm going to now make y the subject of the formula. That will be 2x plus 1 is equal to y, or if I want, I can say, start by writing y is equal to 2x plus 1. Then the second equation given is, this one is my equation number 1. Then the second equation says 2x plus 2y is equal to 4. So this is equation number 2. So using the method of substitution, 2x then plus 2y is equal to 4. So in place of y in this equation, I'm going to replace y with 2x plus 1. So this is equal to 4. So I can simplify. This is basic algebra. 2 times 2x is 4x. Then 2 times 2 times 1 is 2. This is equal to 4. Therefore, 6x is equal to, if I move this 2 to that side, it's going to be 4 minus 2, which is 2. Then dividing by 6 both sides, I get x is equal to 2 over 6, which can be simplified to 1/3. Now that I've got the value of x, I can find the value of y using any one of the two equations. Y is equal to 2x plus 1, and then x is equal to 1/3. So this is 2 multiplied by 1/3 plus 1. Then we can simplify this using a calculator to get the answer straight away, or you can still work it out without a calculator, still you get the same answer. So this is 1 over 1. So we can simplify that one to 5 divided by 3. This is the value of y, this is the value of x. My equation is answered, and that answers the whole question from 1.1 to 1.6 for 25 marks. This is grade 11 mathematics paper 1, question number 1. We need to know how to work with equations and inequalities and algebraic expressions. That is definitely what they ask in question number 1.